A very good evening. Thank you so much for staying with us here on TV47 tonight. These are just some of the stories making headlines on our Saturday night news. Ahead on TV47 Weekend, DP Ruto now says those pushing for a referendum want to siphon public funds as the BBI debate intensifies.
Tuwache vitisho, na tuwache kiburi, na tuwache lazima, na msituambie kwamba nobody can stop reggae. Wananchi hawa wanaweza kusimamisha reggae.
Highest COVID-19 numbers in a single day as health workers say they are already overwhelmed. We tell you a story of pain and agony of drained families who have been abandoned by their kins due to illnesses, the aching hearts. My name is Mumbi Chege. Our sign language interpreter for tonight is Faith Chaptile. Now, President Uhuru Kenyatta has launched the rollout of the Universal Healthcare Coverage Program, and the pilot program had been rolled out in 4 counties: Kisumu, Machakos, Isiolo, and Nyeri County. Josh Onsare reports from Mombasa.
After being under pilot in 4 counties since 2017, the Universal Healthcare Program is now ready for a nationwide rollout. President Uhuru Kenyatta on Saturday launched the nationwide rollout of the Universal Healthcare Scheme, which will be under the management of the National Hospital Insurance Fund, NHIF.
Delivering UHC requires close collaboration and synergy within government, both tiers of government. It will also require greater cooperation with the private sector, our development partners, participation of the religious sector, civil society, healthcare practitioners, and support from the people of Kenya at the individual, family, community, and national levels.
The program is aimed at recognizing the unfortunate families unable to cater for their medical bills. At least 1 million Kenyans will receive free medication under the UHC program.
In line with the clarion call of leaving no one behind, the government will provide health insurance cover to initially 1 million households who are vulnerable and unable to meet even that low-cost premium of 6,000. The identification of these 1 million households by the Ministry of Health, Ministry of Labor and Social Protection, as well as our county governments, is set to begin in a few days across the entire country.
During the event held in a Mombasa hotel, Health CS Mutai Kagwe said data integration will capture the biometrics of Kenyans in order to ease service delivery.
The use of biometric technology in healthcare will ensure that we authenticate patient identity prior to treatment, and through this simple act alone, we will drastically reduce fraud in health insurance, reduce the cost in maintenance, and importantly, improve the management of treatment.
The President has directed the Minister of Health to fast-track reforms in NHIF to better health service delivery.
Today, I direct the Ministry of Health and the Attorney General to fast-track the necessary legislation that will codify these reforms into law and foster the sustainability of the fund.
President Kenyatta has warned government officers with the ill intention of defrauding NHIF or interrupt its processes not to do so, or else they shall face the full brunt of the law. The 3-day UHC conference that ended on Saturday was attended by cabinet secretaries, governors, principal secretaries, and representatives of development partners. Josh Onsare, TV47, Mombasa.
Environment Cabinet Secretary Keriako Tobiko has dismissed claims that evictions in Mau Forest are politically instigated. The CS has said negative ethnicity should not be part of environmental conservancy efforts, adding that President Uhuru Kenyatta was the one who ordered for the restoration of the water towers in the country. According to Environment Cabinet Secretary Keriako Tobiko, the government is relentless in its efforts in conserving the Mau forest. Tobiko said this is not his personal decision, but an order from President Uhuru Kenyatta.
Bila msitu huu, bila chemchemi ya maji hii, hakuna maisha. Na ndio rais wetu amesema lazima tuikomboe Masai Mara. Mnajua imekuwa miaka 40 zaidi. Story. Siasa hii watu wanatumia maneno ya Masai Mara kutafuta kura.
Despite a section of leaders saying that the evictions are targeting certain communities, Tobiko has rubbished the claims.
Sio mali ya mtu binafsi. Na sio mali ya kabila fulani. Hapana. Ni mali ya Wakenya wote. Ni mali ya kabila zote za Kenya.
As you are aware, we have 18 water towers, 5 of which are the major 5 water towers, this one being one of them, the Mau Forest Complex. And where we are now is the Masai Mara Forest Water Towers, where we 1 year ago we reclaimed it.
Kenya Forest Chief Conservator Julius Kamau has said they've been able to plant more than 1.4 million trees since those encroached in the Mau forest were evicted.
We mark and we celebrate, but again by planting trees in the same area, but of course in Senetwet area. Last time we were in Sierra Leone and we are here today. It's good to say that for the last 1 year work has been ongoing.
Kwa hivyo tutakuwa macho sana kuhakikisha kwamba hii miti tumeilinda, imekuwa miti na imekuwa hii area imepata miti mingi.
The leaders were speaking during a tree planting exercise in Narok County. ANC party leader Musalia Mudavadi has reiterated his call for further consultations in the discussions on the BBI report. Mudavadi has warned political leaders against chest thumping, urging for a culture of consensus building on matters concerning the country. The ANC boss was speaking in Kabati, Murang'a County during a burial ceremony of the late George Kamande Kibe.
Ikiwa kuna mjadala wowote, hata mjadala ambao ni wa kubadilisha katiba, kama ni wa BBI, ama mjadala wowote ambao uko, tuzungumuze tukiwa na heshima, kwamba ndugu yetu ama dada yetu labda ana wazo nzuri kunishinda, wacha nimsikize kwa njia ya heshima, alafu tuketi pamoja, turekebishe pahali kuna shida kidogo na tuende mbele, kwa sababu lengo letu kabisa ni kwamba ikiwezekana kwa mjadala ambao uko mbele yetu, tukishirikiana tunaweza kuwa na ile non-contested referendum, ili watu wajadiliane through broad consensus na tumalize. Tusivutane, tusiumize wengine roho na kadhalika. Kumbuka wiki chache vijana wawili walifariki hapa Kenol, kwa sababu ya siasa ambayo haina maana. Kwa sababu sisi wanasiasa wengine saa nyingine we become too greedy, tunaleta mambo ambayo haifai. Kwa hivyo mtoto mmoja wa miaka 15, mwingine wa miaka 21, unajiuliza yeye alikuwa anapigania uhuru? La.
And the Deputy President, William Ruto, has accused a section of those pushing for a referendum of doing so they can loot public funds. The DP says they are for the Constitution Review report without a consensus in order to profit from poll-related procurement. David Muthoka with the details.
In the wake of a debate on the cost of a referendum, Deputy President William Ruto now says those pushing for a referendum are only interested in looting public funds.
Divisive referendum. Let us ask our colleagues. We do not want the independence of the judiciary to be interfered with.
ODM leader Raila Odinga has been insisting that a referendum can cost less than 2 billion shillings, while the Independent Electoral Commission IEBC says the poll will require not less than 12 billion shillings. The Deputy President was speaking during his 2-day tour of the Mount Kenya region in Nyeri and Kirinyaga counties. He further insisted on a consensus on the referendum quest.
Wasipokubali tuketi chini na tukubaliane na mambo ya wananchi ingizwe ndani, na tukubaliane independent judiciary, na tukubaliane independent IEBC, na tukubaliane Senate ikuwe the upper house, na tukubaliane mambo ya kina mama iongezwe sio kupunguzwa, then wananchi hawa wako tayari kusimamisha rege.
President Uhuru Kenyatta and ODM party leader Raila Odinga are set to meet members of parliament to iron out the grey areas in the BBI report.
Ati badala ya kuwapea constituency 2 ama 3, ati wataongeza 70 constituency, 70 members of parliament ambao watakuwa nominated.
We do not want the executive to interfere na maneno ya mahakama ama makoti ya Kenya. Ya pili, sisi tulisema 1 man, 1 vote, 1 sharing. Hebu tuseme hivyo tena. 1 man, 1 vote, 1 sharing.
To BBI. But he will not accept the BBI that undermines and compromises the independence of the judiciary.
Meanwhile, the second in command has vowed to stand with Mathira MP Rigathi Gachagua, who is currently under investigations after he was accused of embezzling 12 billion shillings. Deputy President, who has been on a political tour in the Mount Kenya region, says his 2022 bid is unstoppable.
Away from politics, the Kenyan coast is robust with some of the most remarkable tourist attraction sites in the East African region. From the wilderness to the beaches, the 6 coastal counties have a lot to offer. However, the most beloved and the synonymous of all the places in the coast is the sandy beaches that are packed with a variety of activities to offer any visitor. Our reporter Mariam Mwacharo tells us more.
The Kenyan coast is robust with some of the most remarkable tourist attraction sites in the East African region. From the wilderness to the beaches, the 6 coastal counties have a lot to offer. However, the most beloved and the synonymous of all the places in the coast is the sandy beaches that are packed with a variety of activities to offer any visitor. One can choose to relax at the seashore, bask under the sun, indulge in water activities like surfing, snorkeling, swimming, deep sea diving, and more. The shores of the Kenyan coast remain the #1 attraction site to many. One major attraction offered by the waters of the Mombasa County beaches is the Mombasa Marine Park. Like any other park, it is a habitat for many different and attractive sea creatures, landscapes, and aquatic compounds that leave everyone who visits them with nostalgia and déjà vu every time they stare at the waters of the ocean. The advent of the coronavirus pandemic crippled the tourism sector at the coast. Considering that tourism fetches millions of shillings for Mombasa County, many hoteliers and workers were at a loss and had no means to provide for their families for 6 months, especially after the curfew and lockdown were imposed.
Wajua ni tulipopandishwa hapa na pia tukavundiwa ni mambo ya vibanda hao wale wengine chama chetu ambao ni tuko pamoja nao wakavunjiwa wenye vibanda na sisi pia ofisi yetu pia ikavundwa iko pale nini karibu na ofisi ya hiyo soko la samaki hiyo nini ofisi yetu inaitwa Mboa office wakaivunja wao wakajani wakaoteani watu vile hawako hapa ndio wakaja kafanya vile wanavyotaka wao Mombasa County ushaona na wao walivyofanya hivi hawakutufikiria sisi wenzao kama binadamu tuna family tunalipa manyumba ushaona mami tegemeo letu sisi ni hapa.
Despite the COVID-19 curve picking up again here at the coast, local tourists seem to have heeded the government's directive to promote tourism in a bid to support other Kenyans and revive the tourism sector. With that consideration, we set out to find out exactly how the Kenyan Wildlife Service whose mandate is to conserve the marine life in the ocean, has prepared itself to revive the tourism sector in keeping with COVID-19 protocols. After a short drive towards the north coast, we arrive at the Pride Inn Shanzu, the gateway to the marine park. At the entrance, sanitizing, social distancing and temperature checks are done for all who arrive. Then, one is required to register their names and contact information in case contact tracing is required. However, what then happens when someone's temperature is higher than normal?
So in case we find one guest who the temperatures are high, then we refer that guest to a hospital. We don't allow that guest to enter the park.
Then we proceeded to the glass boat in readiness to visit the marine park, which Warden Wambua says is about 1 to 1.5 nautical miles from the shore when the tide is low. They proceed to sitting at a 1 to 1.5 meters social distancing in the glass boat. Aboard the boat are tour specialists and professionally trained lifesavers, ready to respond to any emergencies. And then the journey begins. While en route, you cannot help but feel the peace and calm the glistering green-blue waters offer you as you're softly patted by the cool breeze of the Indian Ocean. Our first destination is Paradise Island.
Paradise Island is a reef where the sea moves out. Sometimes, depending on the times of the tides, it is bare for like 6 hours. So the plans, or what we're encouraging visitors to do, is to come and do reef walks. They can also do some lunches here or even breakfast. Some of the events that can be hosted here at Paradise Island, we can have reef weddings. Like, say, if the reef will be empty or bare for like 4 to 6 hours, then somebody can come and have a reef wedding here. You can come and do your lunches or barbecue lunches here, or even breakfast, or even dinner. Yes, depending on tide.
The visitors spend some time mingling, playing, and engaging in hearty conversations. For a young soul, the island is a true breath taker and a stress reliever. It was all fun and games before we embarked into our boats and headed for the Coral Garden. Here, the sight is so breathtakingly beautiful. At this point, the guests can take off their masks and gear up for a snorkeling experience, to which I did not waste any time. The underwater gives an experience of a lifetime. A coral garden of more than 10 different types of corals, sea vegetation, more than 200 species of fish, and more. The white underwater sand, jungle green seaweed, and the different schools of fish are uniquely found only at this point of the massive Indian Ocean.
Hapa Coral Garden tuko na samaki aina nyingi, karibu ya 200 aina mbalimbali. Lakini wale vivutio zaidi hapa tuko na surgeon fish ambao Kiswahili anaitwa kangaja. Tuko na red snapper ambao sisi Waswahili wa Mombasa tunamuita kiunga. Tuko na vitatange ambao kizungu tumesema vinaitwa zebras. Hao ndio vivutio vikubwa zaidi. Haya, mbali na hapa Coral Garden tuko na diving site ambayo iko nje kama vile nilivyosema mwanzoni, nje ya rifu tuko na diving sites. Ile diving sites ziko na vivutio zaidi. Tuko na corals, tuko na samaki aina mbalimbali kama tewa, papa, wale ambao wanaitwa reef sharks wako chini ya maji, pia ukizama unaona vizuri sana. Kuna code of conduct ambayo inaelezea 1, 2, 3 usivue, uruhusiwi, usibwage takataka kwa paki, usikanyage corals na mengine mengi ambayo yanaelezea, yanawaongoza wakati wanatembelea hii hifadhi yetu.
The Mombasa Marine Park provides a variety of sightseeing aquatic activities for a tourist, both local and foreign. According to the Kenya Wildlife Service Warden John Wambua, the number of local tourists are now increasing since September, despite the rise in coronavirus cases. Kenyans seem to have awoken that travel and exploration spirit and the urge to satisfy a craving to discover. It is an experience worth remembering, revisiting and reliving. As the tourism sector looks to revamp and domestic tourism improves, Mombasa Marine Park is ready. Mariam Wacharo, TV47, Mombasa County.
Thank you, Mariam, much that report from Mombasa County. Thank you so much for staying with us here on TV47 on our Saturday night news. Let's take a short breather. We'll be back with more in just a moment.
The Postal Corporation Board of Directors congratulates TV47 on the launch of the new state-of-the-art Pwani studio. We are proud to be associated with you as you celebrate this milestone. Posta Kenya, touching lives. Congratulations, TV47.
Nani alisema mimi si mtoto wa Mungu? Mimi nakwambia matachiri wanakuanga wametarau watu sana. Mtos, habari ya asubuhi?
Nzuri sana.
Unacho unaongea na milionia sahi. Mimi nimekuja tu kukuambia sifanye tena hii kazi yenyu ya nyumba. Mnaonanga ni kama mnanisaidia sana kunigreet kama Sulef. Awinja, fanya. Awinja, chukua awi.
Okay.
Mimi sahi ni milionia Pwani.
Kopi chai kwanza?
Chai ya nini?
Chai.
Nani anakuserve chai? Nani anakufanyia kazi? In fact hata naweza kukuandika kazi sasa ukitaka. Equity wamenipikia. Wakaniambia you are the winner of 10 million Kenya shillings. Kitu tunataka tu kwako, tutumie PIN number yako, IT number yako na account number yako. Tunakufanyia nini? Tunakuwekea 10 million kwa account.
So washaweka.
Hawachaweka, sinataka kuwatumia hizo details.
Unaongea hivi vyote ni kama wameweka.
Wanaenda kuweka, kwani nachukua mtakani, nataka tu nikitoka hapa nje hata nishaota taksi.
Wacha nione namba wamekupigia nayo.
Ndio hiyo.
Hii namba wamekupigia nayo.
Ndio hiyo.
Confirm, is this 0763 00000?
Si hiyo, lakini kwa wamenipikia kutoka headquarter hivi.
Good. Kenya unafanya you are dealing with wakora. Wao ni wakora una deal nao. Go back, nilete chai.
Unachuache ni wakora.
The only number Equity unaweza kupigia nayo ni 0763 00000. Sawa? Asante sana. Rudisha hizo vitu tafadhali. Uende sasa wekee milioni ya ukweli chai.
Haina neno mtoto. Chai yako ungeipenda hata white black. Ungetaka nikutengeze kuku ya mayai ya kienyeji.
Tengeneza sasa ya milionea sasa. Tengeneza chai ya milionea sasa, milionea ukweli.
Haina shida mtoto.
Asante sana.
Asante.
Okay, asante.
Wewe nitakuwa mgeni wa nani? Akisi niepuka nimechiwekea haki.
And remember, Equity will only call you from one number, 0763 00000.
Mtos.
Yes.
Kachai kako tayari.
Now you can always be sure it's Equity calling. When we call you, we will use only one number, 0763 00000. Always be sure it is Equity calling.
Sona moja imetengenezwa kwa njia spesheli ili kupambana na maumivu kwa haraka. Sona moja ina aspirin kama kiungo. Sona moja, kitulizo kamili. Maumivu yakizidi, pata ushauri wa daktari.
Even in these uncertain times, when the world is fighting COVID-19, we must remember that every single human deserves to live a long and healthy life. At Lotto Foundation, we have done everything in our power to help contain the COVID-19 pandemic. Thanks to you, we have donated hand washing stations in over 9 areas across Nairobi and supplied face masks, hand sanitizers, and floor and surface sanitizers to 8 dispensaries. Thank you for helping us raise over 600 million shillings for good causes across Kenya over the past few years.
Looking for the smoothest writing pen with an excellent grip and long-lasting ink? Kaluma Pen is all that and more. Write your own success with Kaluma Pen.
The board and management of Mount Kenya University congratulates TV47 on the launch of the new state-of-the-art Pwani studio. We are proud to be associated with you as you celebrate this milestone. We would also like to invite students to enroll for the January intake. For more information, contact us. Mount Kenya University, unlocking infinite possibilities. Congratulations, TV47.
Welcome back. Now, a total of 1,586 healthcare workers are said to have been infected with COVID-19 by Thursday this week, with healthcare workers now claiming to be overwhelmed by the numbers. Now, this is according to the Doctors Union KMPDU. On the day, the country has recorded the highest number of cases. And as Zainab Mohammed now reports, the Kenya Medical Research Institute, KEMRI, has announced that Kenya will join the rest of the world in the search for a COVID-19 vaccine.
A total of 1,586 healthcare workers have succumbed to COVID-19 as of Thursday, the 29th of this month, with 18 others succumbing to the virus. This is according to KMPDU officials, who are now calling upon the government to stop political rallies as they are aiding in the transmission of the virus. The health workers claim they have already been overwhelmed by the surging numbers.
Nairobi is at the top of healthcare workers' infections. And if they cannot be provided adequate and comprehensive medical insurance, then we'll lose this fight because Nairobi is still the epicenter of this infection.
Meanwhile, the Kenya Medical Research Institute, KEMRI, has announced that Kenya will join other countries in the world in the search for a COVID-19 vaccine. According to the institute, the vaccine that was developed by the University of Oxford was made by incorporating genetic material from SARS-CoV-2 virus and into the vaccine. The trial that will be based in KEMRI's Kilifi branch plans to evaluate whether the vaccine is safe, effective and elicits good immune response among Kenyans aged 18 years and above. Kenya's total number of COVID-19 cases has risen to 55,192 cases today after 1,395 people tested positive for the virus in the last 24 hours. This is the highest ever single-day cases since the first case was reported in the country. 1,087 people have recovered as 15 more people succumbed to the virus. Zainab Mohammed, TV47.
On our special report tonight, often than not, when ailments befall close relatives and friends, what follows is massive support and togetherness as a family. But this is not the case for Kevin Ogungu and Virginia Nyaranga, who, after suffering illnesses, have been left with only a few people to look after them. Nananok Loren caught up with them and filed the following report, The Aching Hearts.
Happy and cheerful times draw attention to huge crowds. But what about serious illnesses, those that drain family members financially, emotionally, you name it, to a point of some walking away, leaving the load to a few? This is the Aching Hearts. Before the year 2002, Kevin Ogungu Odero, who is a chef by profession, was one reliable man. He could sustain his family, including his 2 daughters. It is now 18 years since he was diagnosed with throat cancer, which began as a small pimple in his mouth and was treated shortly after. Life resumed normalcy until 2010, when the cancer recurred, this time round very aggressively, forcing him to begin his radio and chemotherapy.
In 2010, I think it came back and it reoccurred, the cancer reoccurred. Now it was very, very, okay, I can say it came back heavily than way before. Yeah, sure. So that's when he started getting now the radiations, the chemos, the surgery.
So far, he has undergone 2 rounds of chemotherapy, each consisting of 8 sessions, a procedure that has caused a major side effect on his left hand.
If you can see his hand, the chemo inamchoma, it forms stuff like blisters on the hand. So wherever the meds passes, it burns.
While under the chemo sessions, his diet is altered and cannot survive without a sip of water every now and then.
He has to eat blended food, of which if you cook ugali, you have to cook it with kienyeji vegetables and all that. And also if it's beans, you have to blend them, and for the rice it has to cook, really cook, yeah, equal that, yeah, sticky, yeah. And it takes a lot of water, because after he went through the radiation, it kind of affected his glands, so his tongue is always dry, so he has to take water regularly to keep the mouth moist.
With all these tasks that his firstborn daughter Stephanie Ogungu has to attend to, she at times has to sacrifice her interior design classes to tend to her ailing father.
Sometimes I have to miss classes to come and take care of him, or I just go to school and then I come midday, because I have to cook for him. He has to take something. So sometimes I go for some classes, I miss others. Yeah, and also I also miss school sometimes to take him to the hospital.
Earlier on, Kevin's family was one complete family, but after falling sick, the mother of the family was no more. The year was 2011, when Stephanie's sister was a toddler.
It has affected us really, I can't lie, because, you know, as a mother, there is that love that you give to your family. Even if things are not okay, you feel like, yeah, we are doing good, we can do this, you get. So there is that love that we lack, there is that motivation that we lack.
She realizes that she had to step in, take up the role and fill in the void. She admits that the situation could have been better if she were around. A burden would be off her shoulder.
Things could be better since we are both schooling, me and my sister, and if she could be here, we wouldn't have to, I wouldn't miss some classes, things would go smoothly. She would be there to take care of my dad. Yeah, so it's never the same.
At this point, Kevin encountered an excruciating headache that was unbearable. Shortly after Steele's training, alluded that he is still fighting for his life because of his 2 precious daughters, who are a source of motivation to him. Kevin's youngest brother, Joseph Oyuga, who on this day paid him a visit, acknowledges that receiving medical treatment in the middle of a pandemic has been a huge tussle. The fight did not end there.
Just traveling from here to Kenyatta, because sometimes you have to use public transport. Yeah, was not very easy. Was not an easy thing. Sometimes you even face stigma. You can see the way people are looking at your brother when he's passing by, and with that thought of there is an epidemic or a pandemic around, and when they look at him, they may think that maybe he's one of them, not knowing that he's suffering from another different kind of disease. There is usually a queue, and definitely you have to book in advance. And now that COVID was around, now even things got slower. Yes, you would access medication, but you see, if you had to book for maybe a week before you can go for your first session, now this time you have to make sure that you book as early as possible. And booking as early as possible, that is a financial obligation. So sometimes you don't even have that cash.
In Nairobi's Gumba estate is yet another aching family. A while back, Virginia Nyaranga was a self-sufficient, hard-working businesswoman based in Narok. It is when she paid a visit to her sister in Ruiru town that she accidentally fell and sustained head injuries that caused internal bleeding and shortly after blood clots that called for a head surgery. And upon seeking medical attention from close to 4 hospitals, she resulted in a stroke.
Tukaenda Mpisha, huko ndiko alifanywa surgery. So after the stroke, maisha yake ilibadilika, haiziongea, haizitembea, hakuna kitu anaweza jifanyia.
With pain, her only daughter Margaret Nduta says it has not been easy seeing her mother in this state of hopelessness.
Si rahisi, ni ngumu kabisa. Juu unajua umezoea kuongea na mtu, umezoea kucheka naye, so unaona hawezi, hata hakuna communication, haijakuwa rahisi, imekuwa ngumu kabisa. Kumuona hivyo, kumuona hajiwezi, na ni mtu anajua kujitafutia, ni mtu akai chini apewe, anajitafutia yake, haijakuwa rahisi kuona, inabidi kumtafutia muombe, haijakuwa rahisi.
She has appreciated every milestone her mother, who has since lost her speech but luckily retained her sense of hearing and sight, has achieved so far. She says it is a slow but sure process. She is at peace now that her mother is close to receiving home care treatment, and though fully dependent, she has her undivided attention.
Unaona tu ka change kadogo. Kila siku maybe leo tuona amesukuma mguu ya right. Siku nyingine amefungua macho, tulianza akafungua macho, hapo anafungua macho, siku hizi anafungua macho, anajiangalilia vitu. So kuna zile improvement polepole zinakuja tu, but ni polepole. Si kitu taamka kesho upate iko. Unaweza hata maliza miezi kadhaa before ujaona any change. Kitu kingine mzuri na nyumbani, venye utalisha mgonjwa wako si venye atalisha hospitali. Venye unajua unampea 100% care. Hakuna kugawa ama nini. Unajua ukiwa na wagonjwa wengi hospitali, mtu akona divided attention. Nyumbani unampea the attention she deserves.
Although many have stayed away from her ailing mother during this needy period, over time she has learned to appreciate that things may not always go her way.
Ngumu. So I guess mtu akiwa na shida, watu wengi hawapendi kukuja mahali pana shida. So watu wanapotea, but kila mtu kuja wakati wake.
Virginia's immediate support system, including her sister-in-law, admits they have to put in extra effort every day to meet her medical costs, and when it is too hard to bear, arrears was an option.
Tumeweka titles, tumejaribu kuuza vitu, tunaona bado tumejaribu kuchagisha, tumefanya harambee, lakini unajua mambo na harambee, kuna venye umefanya once, umefanya twice, huwezi jitana tena. Ni challenge, na venye maisha imepelekwa na hii COVID, so ni kustruggle sana, especially for her daughter. She has been struggling so much. Ni lazima angangane kila siku, ni lazima aende kazini, akijua mamake amemwacha amelala, lakini lazima aende kazini ndio ang'ang'ane.
Virginia is entirely a bedridden patient. In a day, she roughly takes in 15 tablets, which are portioned and put in small containers. They are then crushed and administered directly into the stomach.
Almost about 15 tabs in a day, thereabout, because she has morning, lunch, and dinner. So we segment them in, these are her morning meds. So as you can see, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 for one time. And dinner is the same. And then lunch is about 2 tablets only. So that's how we crush them and then we put them in a tube.
And when it comes to feeding, the order of the day sticks to 300 milliliters of food and 200 milliliters of water at an interval of 3 hours.
We have to measure her food. It's not like us who eat per plate. So for her, she eats 300 ml for food and then she has 200 ml for water. So you start with water and then food and then water. Yeah. Okay. So we feed in 3 hours intervals. So if you feed 7 in the morning, you feed 10, then 1, then 4, and then 7 and 10.
It is evident that many tend to turn away from such situations that befall family members, situations that need oneness, that are unfortunately left for the chosen few. Pain and agony will forever remain in the hearts of these families, whose members, after suffering serious ailments, have only a few to look after them, and all that remains are aching hearts. Nanok Lauren, TV47.
Quite a distressful situation there. Thank you so much, Nanok Lauren, for that report. Thank you so much for staying with us here on our Saturday night news. Let's take another short breather. We'll be back with more in just a moment.